How are you all today? Hope everyone is fine again. So, we'll continue with our geography lesson. That is lesson number 3, isn't it? This is lesson number 3. Lesson 3, tides. Right? So, what did we do in the previous class? We learned about what is tide, how it occurs. What is tide? Tide is the phenomenon occurring of water because of the gravitational and centrifugal forces. Okay? And what is a gravitational force and what is a centrifugal force? Gravitational force is pulling thing towards itself, whereas centrifugal force is throwing away things away from itself. Right? So the activity, the pulling and throwing of things, shakes the earth's surface, and the water rises up and low, and that's how the high tide and the low tide occurs. So that is what we had learned about what tide is, how it occurs, when it occurs. It occurs after every 12 past 25 minutes. Then we have the factors responsible for tide. What factors responsible for tides? Then we have the types of tides. We have types of tides, that is the spring tide and the neap tide. Now what is a spring tide? Spring tide is because the force of the sun and the moon are in one direction, the spring tide occurs, during which the tide level is very, very high. And neap tide is because the pull of the earth and the pull of the when the moon, while revolving around the earth, makes a right angle, it causes a neap tide, and in these days the force or the tide of the water is low. It is lower than the same. Okay. Now what are the effects of tides? We are going to do is before this we have done intertidal range. What is the intertidal range? It is the difference in the water level of the high tide and the low tide, and that is called as the tidal range. Okay. Then we started with effects of tides. With the high tide, fish move into the creeks and helps fishing. So what does the tides do? They almost kind of clean the water. They bring all the rubbish things and deposit on one side. So whoever comes within the force of that tide, it gets thrown out. So if a fish comes, it gets deposited on the banks, and it becomes easy for the fishermen to catch the fish. Then it clears the waste, and hence coast become clean. And ports do not get filled with sediments. With sediments is all that kind of dirty things deposited on the beach. Ships can move up to the ports during high tide. That's the reason why ship can come till the port. What is a port? Port is a place where the ships stop. Like we have a bus stand, we have a station where the trains come, stop and go. The same way, ports is a place where the ships come and stop, so that it can, whatever it is, it's either the passengers or the luggage or whatever, they can take and move. During high tide, sea water can be stored in salt pans from which salt can be obtained. See, this is because the sea water is extremely, extremely salty, and even more saltier is the oceanic water. That's why we cannot drink the sea water. It is not drinkable. and that is why during the high tide the water can be filtered in this or stored in a salt pan, wherein the water gets this thing and all the salt gets collected in that salt pan, and hence we get our salt. Of course, that is a very raw salt. We call it as muta namak or pathar wala namak, that way. Just after it is refined, after it is sent to the industries and all to be refined, that's when we get that fine refined salt, and that's called, like we have that Tata salt. That's so salty that this thing, when you take it like sand, it slips through your finger. Okay. Otherwise, we have that rock kind of salts. That is the original salt that has been taken from the sea. The tidal force can be used to generate electricity. So now, see, that is one more thing that can happen. That is obtaining generation of electricity. A lack of an understanding of the timings of high and low tides may cause accidents to swimmers entering the sea. So during the time, there are coast guards standing over there. They don't allow you to enter the water, the beach, and when it is the time for tides. It is the time for tides, that is the high tide or the low tide, because you might get carried away with the tide and from this end to that end you could be thrown anywhere. So you have to be very, very careful as to when the tide comes, and it hits you very, very badly. It can get hurt also. The tides help in maintaining the mangroves and the coastal biodiversity. So it helps in maintaining the mangroves. And what is a mangrove? It's the trees, the group of trees that we have, that is called as mangroves. And coastal biodiversity is the things that is below the water level. If you go deep down, scuba diving and all we see, then with the things which, so it helps to maintain that also. So these are the effects of tides. So if the question comes, what are the effects of tide, you have all the points written in your textbooks. That's why I keep telling everyone, even in my other classes, I always say the textbook is the best place to read. You get all the answers in this. So now timings of the tides change daily. So it's not that, if the tide has occurred at 12 o'clock today, the next day also it will be at 12 o'clock. No, it depends upon the gravitational and the centrifugal forces. So whatever the time that comes, the tide changes. The tides are continuously occurring phenomena. After reaching the maximum water level during high tide, the low tide sets in. Similarly, after reaching the lowest water level during the low tide, the high tide sets in. So definitely when you are before the tide starts rising, it is on the lowest. So that means, the moment this ends, the second one starts to take place. So suppose if it is a high tide now, so the low tide, it will be time for the low tide. And if it is the low tide, then it will be the time for the high tide. So it depends. So it's like, being ready for the next activity. Similarly, remember that in the following discussion, the highest limit of the high tides is mentioned. You will understand why the timings of the high and low tides change daily. Okay. Now here they have given us the reasons as to why the time changes. There will be high tide at point P. Now here you have to read this diagram very, very carefully. Now suppose if this is the earth. Now here they have shown that this is the earth. Okay, and it is the moon they have shown. The moon. Okay. These are the moon. That is that new moon, the full moon, and then again the ending part of the moon. Okay. That's why it is written. Okay. Here it is M1, M2. this is P1 and this is P, and this is F over here, this is F over, F1 over here. And the degrees they have shown is this one, like it's very different, so please 6 degrees, this is something like, you know, this is 6 degrees. I have not taken a correct measurement, you will do it afterwards, and then degree 30 something. Okay. So there will be high tide at the point P. That means here the tide is at a very high point, and then point F is opposite at an antipodal location to the point P. See here, that is a, you know, this is one side of the earth. Now if you have a globe, you will know. So if there is a high tide over here, that means there will be a high tide, that is the same direction on the other side of the earth, whichever country. Suppose if it is America over here, then it could be some other country over here. So if a high tide occurs in America, then the high tide occurs over here also. Okay, so that is what it says. Antipodal location to the point P, it will also experience high tide at the same time. So this is what I was saying, that if it is India over here, and if India is experiencing the high tide at this point, then whichever country is on this direction on the other side of the globe, that country will also experience a high tide. It will take 24 hours for point P to come back to its original position. Point P will be at point F after 12 hours. So now, like when it comes after 24 hours, it will take, you know, it will take, what do you say, as P again. So when it is rotating, like from here, then suppose if the high tide has gone here, so this will be P1, and whatever the thing, and if it is a low tide over here, then whichever part of the country is on the other side of the globe, that will experience low tide. That is exactly what it is trying to say. The same change will also occur with reference to point F. Point F will not experience the same high tide because in the meanwhile the moon also would have moved a little ahead. Hence it will take 25 minutes more for the point F to come to the position opposite to the moon. Maybe you know why? Because if there is a high tide, so the amount of force that is experiencing over here for the high tide, it may be a high tide over here, but it will not experience the same force that P is experiencing, because the moon has also moved, and this is the moon, the thing that has also moved a little before it could feel that way. High tide will be definitely there. If there is a high tide over here, high tide will be over here also, but the force that is there for the high tide over here, it will be a little less over there, because the moon, by the time it comes to that force over this side, the moon takes about 25 minutes to come to that position. Understood? So after 12 hours, 25 minutes, F will arrive opposite to the moon and it will experience high tide. So of course, because you know it's the rotation of the earth and the moon, that time change, slight time change is there. So that does not make it, if it is exactly, so 12 hours, if it is, as I said in the beginning, 12 hours, 25 minutes. So if it is 12, suppose 12 o'clock over here, it will be 12:25 over here by the time it experiences high tide. It will definitely experience high tide because there is a high tide over here, but it will take, if it is 12 o'clock over here, then it will be 12:25 over here for it to experience the same high tide which has occurred on point P. Okay. Later again, after 12 hours and 25 minutes, point P1 will experience high tide as it comes in front of the moon. There will be high tide at F12 as shown in figure. There is a high tide and low tide twice a day, 24 generally. The time difference between two tides is of 12 hours and 25 minutes. So now after P, if it goes to P1, if the high tide occurs over here, then you have F1 also experiencing high tide. In the meantime, P will experience low tide and F will also experience low tide. This is what it is trying to say. So that means during 24 hours, so it is after 12 hours 25 minutes, that means out of 24 hours the high tide and low tide will occur twice a day. Okay, and now they have given you one experiment to experiment, that is, take a wide open large dish, keep the dish on a table or a flat surface, fill water in the dish up to the rim. We have to generate waves in the dish. Is it possible to generate waves without touching or shoving the dish? Try doing so. So we have what is the geographical explanation for the above experiment. Waves. After tides we are going to do about waves. If you blow air over hot milk or tea while drinking, ripples are generated, isn't it? When you are drinking a glass your tea especially, or the hot milk, what do? You don't drink because you are small children, so you won't drink tea, you drink milk, and your mother gives you a hot cup of milk to drink. What do? You do that way, isn't it? When you are doing that, there is a ripple error because the milk is straight when you pick it up. It is still, not straight, it is still. It is called as still. When the milk is still and you blow it, what do you find? That there is a slight ripple in the milk. So that ripple is called as wave. That up and down of the milk, that is called as waves. If you blow are generated on the milk or the tea. In the same way, because of the force of the wind, water appears to be moving, and that's why we see, if we look at the water is always, going slightly like this, like this, like this, like this. Why is that? That's because of the ripple. The wind, the force of the wind is making the water move. It is causing a ripple on the surface of the water. These are called, the sea water gets pushed by the wind and ripples are generated on the water surface. These are called waves. The sea water moves up and down or slightly forward and backward due to the waves. The waves bring the energy contained in them to the coast. They break in the shallow waters near the coast. Large or small waves are formed continuously at the surface of the sea. Generation of waves is a natural and regularly recurring phenomenon seen. Isn't it? When you usually see, if you go to the beach and all, you stand, even if you find that wind is blowing, that's why you will always feel the wind near the beach area more. If it gets evening, it tends to get colder. The water is moving up and down. Now, structure of waves. Now, what is the structure of waves? The sea water gets pushed up and down, so when the wind is blowing, the water is going down, then up, then down, then up. Okay, because of the wind. The raised up portion of a wave is called a crest and the depressed one is called trough. Now, we are talking about waves. What are we talking about? The waves. Now, suppose if this is the water, saying water going up, down, up, down. This is how the waves come, isn't it? So, the raised portion, this raised portion is called a crest. This is called as crest. This is called as crest, and this down portion, when the water goes down and then again rises, this is called as trough. This is called as trough. This is the crest and this is the trough. If a strong wind is blowing in one direction, large waves are direct. So if you see the waves, if the wind is blowing only from this direction, then the full force of the wind is there and the water goes, the waves are very large. The vertical distance between a crest and the falling trough is called the amplitude of the wave, whereas the distance between two successive crests or troughs is called wavelength. Please underline this if you can in your book. Okay, now suppose, see, this is a crest, then this is a crest, and this is a crest. So similarly over here, trough and trough, right? So the distance, this distance is what is mentioned over here. So the distance between these two, this is called as wavelength. This is called as the amplitude. It is called as amplitude. The distance between this wave to this wave is called amplitude. Okay, and then the distance between this is called as wavelength is this is the wavelength. Okay, and amplitude of this thing. This amplitude is not this one. Amplitude is this one. Sorry. See, amplitude is this line. This line is called as the amplitude. This length is called as the amplitude. And this distance is called as the wavelength. Okay? And the wavelength, its amplitude and its velocity depends on the velocity of the wind. So whatever the wavelength created or the amplitude or the velocity is the force. So that depends upon the force of the wind. Now velocity of waves. What is the velocity of waves? If we start, please underline this. See, the raised up portion of a wave is called crest and the depressed one is called trough. Please underline that. And the vertical distance between a crest and the following trough is called, so this vertical line is called amplitude and the horizontal one is called the wavelength. It is called as the wavelength. Okay, now we have velocity of waves. If we stand at the coast, we feel the waves are coming towards the coast. If a floating object is thrown at a distance in the sea, we find the object moving up and down at the same place. It does not come to the coast. It means the water forming the wave also does not come to the coast. Remember that the water in the wave does not move. What moves is the energy. Now what is the thing? See, suppose whenever you stand on a beach, and what do? You kind of a plastic ball or something like that. If you throw on the water, what do you see? What you see is that it is only floating there. Because the water is floating up and down, the object is also moving along with the water, but it does not come back to us. Why? Because it is not. That means the wave is also not coming to that. If the wave is coming, only then that object will come. If it is not coming, then that means the wave is caused by the movement. It is the energy that moves the wave. Okay. The main reason of wave generation is wind, but at times due to earthquakes or volcanic eruptions occurring below the floor of the sea, waves get generated. Such waves assume a great height in the shallow waters near the coast. These waves are very destructive. They cause huge loss of property and life. Please underline this. The main reason of wave generation is wind, but at times, basically the waves are created because of the wind. But at times, there is like that earthquake, that shaking of the earth, very dramatical this thing, or the volcanic eruption. Because of that also there is a huge cause of waves causing on the sea. And that is more dangerous than your normal sea waves when it is very quiet and just moving up and down. Okay, that may cause the damage to the property and life. These waves are called tsunamis. So the waves created because of the earthquake or the volcanic eruption causes tsunami. They are called as tsunamis. Okay, in 2004, tsunami waves were generated because of the earthquake that took place near Sumatra island of Indonesia. They devastated the east coast of India as well as of Sri Lanka. The waves cause erosion along the headlands and create beaches in the protected location in the bays. So this is how tsunami occurs. Tsunamis occur basically because of the earthquake or the volcanic eruption, and it causes huge damage to life and property. So what is this? Always remember, if earthquake occurs in the ocean, the coastal areas face a risk of tsunamis. In such cases, it is better to go away from the coast or towards higher altitude. This way, loss of life can be avoided. Property, of course, we cannot save because it is there. But when we come to know that the tsunami is coming, then we can at least move towards the higher altitude or go to a different place. Okay? Do you know? This is the last part. While moving along the sea coast or playing in the water, we must take adequate care regarding the timings of the tide, otherwise it can lead to serious accidents. So this is what it says, that when the tide arrives, we have to be very, very careful of the tide. That's why the coastal guards are there who tells us to be away from a certain time, because they say that it is a tidal wave, this thing. For that we must know the timings of the tides. For this you must know the phase of the moon on the given day. 3/4 of the phase of the moon is the time of the high tide. For example, suppose you are at a coast on the 4th phase of the moon, then 3/4 of the phase is 3. It means the high tide will occur at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. and approximately 6 hours from it, that is 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. will be the low tide. There may be slight differences according to local conditions. We must collect the information from local people because they are the ones who know what is happening and what not. That we simply go to enjoy ourselves on the beach. But this is, if you want the geographical explanation and take precautions, then these local people will help you. And with that, we end with the chapter tide. We end with the chapter tide, and assignment will be given to you by this in the next session, and then we'll start with the next chapter, air pressure. Okay, bye.